WeatherNews.com.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Hi, I'm Chuck McDowell, the timeshare cancellation guy and founder of Wesley Financial Group. And I want to set the record straight. I am not an attorney. I've never wanted to be an attorney. And the truth is, I really don't even like attorneys. If I sound like an attorney, I'll apologize. But what I've learned in my 15 years in the timeshare cancellation business is you don't need to be an attorney to get folks out of their timeshare. At Wesley, we've helped over 40,000 families cancel their timeshare, and I want to share with you how we do it. Just give my office a call. I guarantee if we take you as a client, we'll get you out of your timeshare, or you'll pay nothing. Attorneys, this was meant to be funny, so please don't sue me, especially my friend Kenneth from Black River Falls, Wisconsin.
Call now for your free timeshare exit info kit. 800-881-9898. 800-881-9898. 800-881-9898.
Here is the latest news and information that impacts you. I'm Derek White. The measles outbreak continues to spread across the U.S., with Kansas reporting 37 cases across 8 counties, including 1 hospitalization. Linked to the Texas and New Mexico outbreaks, the virus is affecting mostly unvaccinated individuals. Nationally, cases have surged past 700. 2 children in Texas and an adult in New Mexico have died. Health officials urge vaccinations with the MMR shot as measles remain highly contagious and potentially deadly. Looking at our corner of the state, the Goodland Kiwanis Club will be egging yards on Easter Eve once again. The annual event does require you to sign up, so visit goodlandkiwanisclub.org for more details. Volunteers will hide eggs during the 6 p.m. hour on Saturday, April 19th, if weather allows. The event is restricted to Goodland city limits and 1 mile outside of those limits. For more information on this and other stories, visit nwksradio.net.
Rocket 102.5.
This morning we got low pressure overhead with variable light winds at 5 to 15 miles per hour. Temperatures in the 45 to 55 degree range. For later this morning through this evening, a red flag warning is in place for all the counties of northwest Kansas and Cheyenne and Kit Carson in Colorado. Winds will turn to the south, picking up 20 to 30 miles per hour with gusts 45 to 50, and with dry conditions, no outdoor burning. Highs will reach in the low 80s ahead of an evening cold front that will shift the winds to the north. Not much moisture to work with, so a dry frontal passage is imminent, with lows dropping into the mid-30s. For tomorrow and Saturday, much cooler air will arrive behind the front. Could be some light rain showers Friday evening through Saturday morning, with some snow out in Colorado as the overnight low goes below freezing. Both days will be chilly with highs in the mid-40s Friday, north winds at 20 to 30 miles per hour, and in the 50 to 55 degree range Saturday. This meteorologist Chris Romick in the NWKS Radio Weather Center.
Spring is here, and Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware has everything you need for the season. Get your lawn looking its best with Ultimate Fertilizer and power up with Ego blowers and mowers. Got a project? They got a surplus of lumber ready to go. Plus, fire up the fun with their selection of grills and griddles. Hoover's is also proud to sponsor the Pioneer 5K, 10K, half, and full marathon supporting Colby Community College cross country on April 26th, and remind you to sign up and participate. It's Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware in Goodland and Colby, your one-stop shop for spring.
Looking for insurance that actually puts you first? At the insurance agency in downtown Goodland, we're independent, which means we work for you. Whether it's auto, home, crop, or business, we shop top carriers to get you the best coverage at the best price. No pushy sales. Just honest advice from people who live right here in your community. Give us a call today at 785-899-5011 or stop by 1020 Main in Goodland, and let's get you covered. The Insurance Agency. Insurance the way it should be.
Excuses like it's hot, dark, even windy are no excuse at all when you go inside the Logan County Rehab and Wellness Center. This modern workout facility offers state-of-the-art exercise equipment, a therapy pool, and more for you to work out at your own comfortable pace and your own schedule. They offer early morning to late night hours. Come shed some pounds inside at the Logan County Rehab and Wellness Center on the west side of the Logan County Hospital in Oakley. Ask about affordable monthly memberships for singles, couples, and families.
Get ready for powerful deals at Hurl Chevrolet GMC in Goodland, Kansas. Right now, drive home a 25 GMC Sierra 1500 Turbo Max with 0.9% financing or up to $7,800 in purchase allowance. Step up in luxury in a 2025 Sierra 1500 Denali and get up to $5,250 in purchase allowance. Or take on any job with the 25 Sierra 2500 with 3.9% APR or up to $2,700 in purchase allowance. These offers won't last. Rush into Hurl Chevrolet GMC in Goodland today or shop online at hurlchev.com.
If you're shopping for a banking institution, visit with Equity Bank of Hoxie, Grinnell, and Quinter, Kansas. The Equity Bank is heavily invested in local business and activities contributing in many ways back to their community. Their employees are involved with many organizations and area events. Plus, a lot of experience comes with that staff. You'll find valuable local assistance when you bank at the Equity Bank of Hoxie, Grinnell, Quinter, and other locations in Western Kansas. The Equity Bank, member FDIC.
Get up to $1,000 off your new device at Next Tech Wireless. Already a customer and need to upgrade? You're eligible for up to $1,000 off too. Choose from the latest devices like the iPhone 16 or the Samsung Galaxy S25. And it doesn't stop there. Get a $100 Visa gift card for all new lines. Stop by a location near you today. Next Tech Wireless, connecting Kansas.
This Friday, it's the annual NWKS radio auction on all 5 of our radio stations from 8:30 a.m. Central Time to 6 p.m. A full day of savings. Get that sale bill now online, nwksradio.net, or we will send a sale bill to your mobile device. Text the word auction to 785-460-0790. That's auction to 785-460-0790. And we'll see you here Friday for the NWKS radio auction.
Mo and Matt and Michaela Cow said M&M Supply continues with deals on Hustler mowers. A good supply with discounts on some closeouts right now. Different models, different sizes, financing available. They'll take your trade-ins. You know, they work on all types of different riding mowers, but they do carry Hustler mowers, Hustler parts. Hustlers made right here in Kansas, USA. They carry cordless DeWalt tools like DeWalt lodge edgers, chainsaws, trimmers, 20 or 60 watt. Yeah, they'll keep on growing, so you keep on mowing at M&M Supply, rural Edson, Kansas.
The loss of a loved one can leave a person with a lot of challenges to handle during a very difficult time. That's where Bateman Funeral Home in Goodland comes in. At batemanfuneral.com, you can find lots of information and resources to help ease the burden, including pre-need arrangements, monuments, and obituaries. You can even express your condolences by ordering flowers. Make a difficult time easier and celebrate a life well lived with Bateman Funeral Home in Goodland and batemanfuneral.com.
You ready? 1, 2, 3, 4!
It's the Morning Blitz with Ross Volkmer.
The amount of money getting thrown around to quarterbacks who haven't done diddly squat is amazing to me.
The region's only local sports talk.
Listen to this guy. He knows what he's talking about.
Broadcasting on Goodland's Rocket 102.5, simulcasting on Goodland's 730 Gold KLOE.
Guys everywhere.
Discussing it all from the preps.
It's been a long, long time. But the Goodland Cowboys are going to play for a state title.
To the pros.
How about a walk-off grand slam? Touch of all time, Ryan McMahon.
The Blitz is presented by Pearl Chevrolet GMC, Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware, and F&B Bank, as well as the Insurance Agency, Farmer State Bank in Oakley, the Cowboy Corner Express, and Equity Bank of Hoxie, Quinter, and Grinnell.
Let's go to work.
And Cruz with a drive to right field, and O'Neal Cruz caps off the inning with his 3rd home run. His 1st career grand slam for O'Neal Cruz.
Line to right field on the run is Bellinger. He dives and makes the play. And the Yankees win 4-3 on a sparkler by Cody Bellinger. And the Yankees sweep the Royals.
Hero step back, gets a good look, 3-pointer, got it. Tyler Hero is 8 for 8 from the field. He's got 23 points.
1-2 pitch. And he hits that to center field and fairly deep. Pages going back to the warning track. It's gone! Michael Tolia picks a great time for his 1st home run this year. How about a grand slam? And the Rockies are right back in this game with 1 swing.
And good Thursday morning, everybody. Off and rolling. April the 17th of 2025. Little cool out brisk this morning. 51 degrees, partly cloudy skies, but going to be a warm and very windy 84 today. For those who are wondering, yes, winds, I think, especially after 11 o'clock Mountain, noon Central Time, could see winds up over 40 miles per hour. So we are in a red flag warning today. And like I said, warm temperatures will be nice, Yesterday was an unbelievably nice day. Super nice and warm, no wind. Now just take that warm day and add 40-mile-an-hour winds. That's pretty much what you're going to have. So not a lot of fun with all the wind and stuff expected to be coming and blowing around in the northwest Kansas and the tri-state region today. And then tomorrow, of course, a massive cool down weather-wise as temperatures take a dip into the 40s. So pretty much cut in half will the weather here temperature-wise tomorrow. Hope everyone's having a good start to their day. We got a full show ahead today. A brand new guest, a first-time guest, Christian Says, is going to join us from DNVR Sports. He covers the Colorado Rockies. And so we will talk Rockies baseball with the man who covers them full-time. I feel bad for him this year for Christian, but he'll be joining us coming up here in segment number 2 in about 15 to 20 minutes or so from now. We will also dive into local sports, what's on tap for today, what happened yesterday in softball. Also some news out of Kansas basketball as they've added another piece in the portal announced yesterday. So, yes, we will be all getting to that in segment number 3. And coming up here, and I will need your help, the F&B Bank text line is wide open and available and would love to get your thoughts and comments on it here with our first segment topic, as we are going to talk about, the question will be, what is more important in your personal opinion, individual stats or your team's record when it comes to becoming a legend in your mind? So that'll be the question, becoming a legend. So this all is stemmed from the Shedeur Sanders getting his number retired, and of course with Travis Hunter. Now, we can back up Travis Hunter with the fact that he was a two-way player, which is very rare. He won a Heisman Trophy. He won other awards. He did things that not many people have done. And so you can understand that he could have possibly his number retired for his deal. But when you're a quarterback in this particular case, you are not only judged upon, I think, your numbers, but also what was your success rate on the gridiron or on the field of competition. Did you win? Did you lose? Though wins and losses matter. And that comes off this stat, where, once again, Shedeur Sanders broke over 100 records in his 2 years at Colorado, but went just 13-12 in his career at CU, and he's getting his number retired. So the question I have for the F&B Bank text line today at 785-899-2222, would love to hear your thoughts. What's more important when it comes to becoming a legend or getting your number retired or something along those lines? Is it more important to have great individual stats? That's what can get your number retired, or is it the record that you finished with your team? So that will be the question we will get to here coming up in just a matter of seconds. So F&B Bank text line is open at 785-899-2222. But before we dive into that question, I want to, of course, remind people that there will be no show tomorrow, no show Monday, as we will be back on Tuesday. No show tomorrow due to the fact that, of course, it is our NWKS radio auction. That'll be getting going about 7:20 Mountain Time. A little bit after that, we'll be off and rolling with our auction and be going all the way until 6 o'clock Central, 5 o'clock Mountain Time. Make sure you go to nwksradio.net and go out there and see if you can find of course, not so see if you can find, you will be able to find, of course, the sale bill, which, by the way, new items were added yesterday. There were still a few things leaking in from yesterday. So make sure that you go check out that sale bill, get a good look at it, and mark some items that you might want to bid on. Some great items, some great services, all kinds of neat things, all different kinds of price ranges, some big items, some small items, very, very neat stuff. So make sure you go to nwksradio.net and you can find the green box that is the NWKS Radio auction link. Click that, then you'll see in big bold letters, there's the sale bill, and make sure you download that. And like I said, there's some new items as of this morning. So make sure you go check that out, and we'll be on the air. So no show once again tomorrow on Friday here on the Morning Blitz. Raleigh will be on, and then we will come on after Raleigh with the radio auction, and then of course no show on Monday. The reason for that is I am heading back to Nebraska for Easter, and with the late radio auction, I want to spend a little bit extra time with my family. So we'll be back coming up. We'll be back on Tuesday with the program, and so we'll get going on Tuesday with the Morning Blitz. So anyway, Let's dive in here to our opening topic. So the question of the day, and you can once again chime in, FNB Bank text line 785-899-2222. You can comment on Facebook, YouTube, and X on the Hurl Chevrolet GMC video stream. We can see it all here from the studios in KKCI. What is more important when it comes to becoming a legend? What is more important, individual stats or your team's record? So once again, this question, once again, just a moment ago said it, but I'll say it again, stems from the Colorado quarterback Shedeur Sanders. The news came out yesterday or a couple days ago that they were going to announce that Shedeur, as well as his teammate Travis Hunter, were going to have their numbers retired just 3.5 months after the season was over. And these two guys are done. Now, most of the time, I would say in most situations, you would see, numbers get retired, and it would be, but be a couple years. Even if the guy was great, it'd be multiple years. Maybe half a decade, a full decade, more. It usually takes a while for a number to get retired. And as it was brought to, a lot of people, it shows you the poll that Coach Prime has, because he thinks these two guys, Shedeur and Travis Hunter, are kind of like his sons, even though one is by blood, the other one is not. But, and just shows kind of the poll that he has by getting these two numbers retired there at Colorado. And my point, and so the status becoming, or the comments have been pouring out, not only from listeners on this show, but from other places across national media, saying, well, if Shedeur Sanders is getting his number retired, how in the world is that happening? Yes, he broke over 100 records in Colorado football history, but he went just 13-12 in his career. So what is more important? What is more important? Is it setting records individually? That should be enough to get your number retired, or is it also, of course, going to 13-12 in a career, 13-12 in his career? Text messages pouring in on the FNB Bank text line. Listener Andy has a thought on this. 100 records, ? Does that include sacks taken, sack yards? He didn't have a great O-line. Was widely discussed that he would not throw balls away, and that would hurt his completion percentage. So put an asterisk next to that one. I once again, I don't know. 100 records seems ridiculous. My guess is if there's any passing record, I would say most of them are, he's got career records, season records, and game records would be the ones. And those probably, that would probably total up, to probably a good 30 or 40 records. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know. But Andy continues on. It has to be a combination as a quarterback. Great stats plus wins. You look at past Heisman quarterbacks, they have won, and they all have great stats. That is according to listener Andy here on the Morning Blitz. Let's get some more thoughts here this morning. Listener Jared, of course, chiming in. I figured that he would have something to say about this for sure as well. He says they both matter. But this was a decision made by AD Rick George. His decision was CU was at the bottom of the barrel when these two turned it around. That's a quote from Rick George. Dion had no knowledge of this or even known. He did have to sign off on it. Of course he was going to sign off on it. Jared, come on. I mean, but here's the point, Jared. Why right now? Why right now? Why does it have to be right now? What about it has to be, well, these guys have only been out of college for 3.5 months. Yet, here you go. Have your numbers retired. Everywhere else, most of the places, give the guys, a good 5 years, 10 years. Why now? I want to know. Just, the spring game so that you can bring in more fans. That's it. That's all they want. Just to boost attendance at the spring game. That's what you're saying. All they want to do is boost attendance at the spring game so we can retire. You know what? If you want to boost attendance, it doesn't matter. I mean, honest to goodness, spring game attendance this year, if you look across the nation, is down everywhere.
everywhere. It's down absolutely everywhere. Alabama, Ohio State, who just came off a national championship, their spring game attendance was down by like 20 to 30,000 people. The sad part about spring games is that spring games over the course of the last couple of years have become a deal where really you go there and you watch a lot of the backups. Rarely do you see any of the key players even play a series or so. It's like that very first NFL preseason game. Like, who cares who's out there? And honestly, most of these games, they're not even games anymore. Or you have to go back a couple of years, it was like two-hand touch. It wasn't even tackle football. And then if you want to keep going on back with it even more, if you keep coming closer, now they're, of course, going away with the spring games and stuff and they're just going to these almost like combines where you can see guys go out there in shorts and T-shirts and run around and do stuff. It's not football anymore. And so spring game attendance across the country is tanking, absolutely tanking. And it's not just at CU. I understand you're trying to drive more revenue, all that stuff. It's just not going to happen. When was the last time that Dion cared about a spring game? When was the last time that Dion cared about a spring game? I don't know. Now, I admit, I am with Jared on this. He keeps chiming in on the FP Bank text line, 785-899-2222. And I am with Dion on this. I would love to see a deal where they do this in Division II, where you can go and you could go get a team and bring him in and do a spring game against another team. Here's the problem with that. First and foremost, the NCAA hasn't made it legally yet, although my guess is it probably will be in the next couple of years. But here's the thing. If you bring in another team and you want to do, so like, for example, Dion had the example of doing like a spring practice or two with Syracuse. If you want to do a spring game with that, television networks are going to want to televise that. And on top of that, that means that you're putting tape out there of your players that maybe aren't the star players, but had a good spring game, and they're going to get offered more money to go somewhere else. There are no guidelines or barriers preventing people from moving whenever they want. There is a spring transfer portal window. It's open now. Players can leave now. And if you have a spring game and a guy goes off that you aren't paying a whole lot of money to, someone gets a hold of him, and guess what? He's gone. And that was the guy you're trying to keep maybe for your team in the next year. That's the sad part about college athletics right now, is that the portal is so wide open that if that's why no one wants to televise spring games or have spring games, because nobody wants to see, or no coaches want other coaches to see their players and have a chance to come and take them from them. That is what they want. So anyway, look, I'm not saying that Coach Prime doesn't care about spring games. I'm all fine with him trying to find a way to make them better. I would be all for it. To me, a spring game is humongous for some of these college towns because it drives in fans. They want to experience like a game day in the spring. From Nebraska, that's the way it is. Spring game used to be humongous. I mean, they used to have 60 to 70,000 sometimes at a spring game. That's not happening anymore. They're going away from this until the barriers get put back up for spring game. That's going to help them out a little bit. But back on the topic of retiring your jersey, I just don't get why in the world it had to be right now at 3.5 months. I mean, what's the right? It's almost like as if Coach Prime was like, well, I'm going to be gone after this next year, so I want to get this done right now. And I know Rick George was the one that did it. I get it. I got it. Let's see. Michael chiming in on thoughts on the jersey retirement. The Colorado Buffalo jersey retirement is a slap to the face to past players, especially those that won a title and don't have theirs retired. But on the other hand, that's the university's fault for not recognizing them. Still too early for these players, though, I feel. There you go, Michael. I like those comments. As well. It is kind of a slap. Now, once again, let's see. Jared also gets in there. So he does agree with Michael. He goes, it's going to hurt CU. Or Jared says, this will hurt CU in the long run, regardless of what we think is going to happen. I wanted to see Cordell Stewart and Darian Hagan and Alfred Williams, a lot of older CU greats get that. But, yeah, I would agree. I don't know why some of those guys haven't had their number retired. They probably deserve it just as much as these other guys. So that's as much as Rick George is doing this to help keep his coach around, which I don't blame him for trying. I mean, this was a phenomenal hire for Rick George, bringing in Coach Prime. But, he's trying to find ways to keep his coach happy by not only, paying him good money, but by also allowing his son and his two favorite players, probably that he's coached so far, to do that. So yeah, look, and I understand that I know Jared Chime, he's the fourth highest paid coach. Look, I agree. I'm not against. I've said before in this program, I don't have anything against him being. I don't have anything against him trying to keep Coach Prime happy with the fourth highest paid coach, because I believe that he's actually worth it. Not in wins and losses. The record would say he's not worth it. But the eyeballs, the television numbers, some of the top players, the fans that have come out and who are not Colorado fans whatsoever, but love Prime and they're on the sideline, your Terrell Owens and all that stuff. All that kind of stuff, even though it doesn't result in wins and losses, it drives eyeballs. And eyeballs drive money. And so that's why he can get those type of big time. That's why he can get that kind of money. So I don't have a problem with that, with what they're paying Coach Prime. I think he's worth that in the amount of eyeballs and stuff he's bringing to the University of Colorado. So I believe he is worth that kind of money. Like I said, this topic once again the question of the day is, to become a legend status, do you need stats or is it your team record on the team? That's the thing. And right now, the texters are chiming in. FB Bank text line 785-899-2222 says you got to have a little bit of both, which usually, right? I mean, usually, doesn't it, if you have great numbers, doesn't that usually mean you're having success? Usually it does. You put up great numbers, usually means your team is going to have success because you're putting up those great numbers. At Colorado really wasn't that way, because he put up ridiculous passing numbers and all that stuff throughout his career and in a season and in games. He did all that stuff. But it didn't always result in wins because, their defense was somewhat questionable at times. Their offensive line was always questionable, it seemed like. My guess is some of those records, as Andy said, probably are sacks. How many times you were sacked in a game? That would be a record. And my guess is he was on that. According to listener Brian, FB Bank text line, I agree on waiting a few years, but it's right now because Dion's all about the fame, fortune, and hype. That's according to Brian on the FB Bank text line. So, like I said, I think that these two kids, once again, in Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter, I believe that they are deserving of having numbers retired. But I would agree with listener Michael and Jared as well, saying, weren't there some other guys that probably deserve to have their numbers retired prior to this? Like a Cordell Stewart, for example? Probably so. But it did not. I mean, I think the most recent play, I think it was Rashawn Salam. That's been quite a while ago. So, yeah, it's a tricky situation. To me, I think it's a very tricky situation to be in for just this time. And so, you're trying, but at the same time, I don't have a problem with those guys, but I just think it's too early. They could sit around and wait a few years. It doesn't have to happen right now. It really doesn't. It does not have to happen. Can't you drive enough spring portal spring interest with the new quarterback? Don't they have Juju, or what is it? The Juju, the quarterback there that's coming there, the freshman. Don't they have that young transfer from Liberty? I mean, they've got some really good talented pieces. Isn't that enough to drive the spring game? Apparently not. We'll see. Let's see here. Rob chiming in on the FB Bank text line 785-899-2222. If it weren't for his dad, talking about Shedeur, would anyone outside of Colorado even know who he is? Good quarterback on a so-so team. That's a great question, Rob. I think they would. His numbers would probably show that. I mean, but he had every opportunity to put up great numbers. I mean, they threw the ball all the time there in Colorado. That's what they did. They were not a running team. They threw the ball all the time. If Colorado was going to have success, it was going to be Shedeur leading to that success. And then but I still think if you put him in, let's say, Wake Forest, for example, Let's say you put him at Wake Forest, a program that's a Division I major conference program, but not very well known, kind of like what Colorado was at the time that Prime went there. I still think I don't know. That's if it wasn't his dad, if Prime wasn't the coach, I don't know. That's a good question. That's a very good question. I don't think he would probably be as well known. That is for sure. Don't think he would be as well known. But his numbers certainly back up that he does have good numbers. He does have good numbers. And then one more thought before we get to break here. I believe NIL and portal have ruined college sports. Oh, there's no doubt about this. Agree that student athletes should be able to get some walking around money and not be exploited by business of big-time programs. Look, quick thought, and once again, I'll wrap it up on this. We're talking about how, it kind of all snowballed into, starting out, how do you get your number retired, which then went to, driving money for the spring game, which then not having spring games because you don't want people stealing your players with the portal. And then it's led into this. Look, of course, NIL and portal have ruined college sports. Because and NIL was supposed to be name, image, and likeness. That meant you were supposed to be able to go out and make money based upon your name, image, or likeness. Now it's not name, image, and likeness anymore. Now it's pay for play. Now it is pay for play, and it was pretty much has been for the last couple of years. It's been pay for play, not name, image, likeness. That lasted for maybe 2 weeks, and then it became pay for play. The difference is NIL meant if you were a really good player, for example, a business could call you up and say, hey, we want you to come and be a spokesperson for, like Jared Casey at KU for Applebee's. That was NIL. That was NIL. He was a guy that that got his career going at KU, and he got those deals with Applebee's, got gift cards and some TV time. That was a perfect example of NIL. Pay for play, that would be the Nico Amalivas situation. That was Nico going to Tennessee because they were going to pay him $8 million over the course of 4 years for him to come to Tennessee and be the quarterback and do autograph signings and all this stuff. And there's been more still stuff that's poured out because of that news out of that here recently. But that would be pay for play. You were paying for that young man to come and play for your program, even though it was through NIL in quotation marks. Yeah. They could honestly fix a lot of problems if they could say the portal, if the portal was open, and you only got one free portal, if they put up barriers on the portal, they could slow down a lot of this. But we'll see. We'll see if they're going to do that. I think the Nico Amalivas situation might actually be a good thing in the long term for college athletics to start to get some barriers put up and prevent some of this stuff from happening. So we'll have more on Nico coming up in the walk-off because some interesting more news came out about that whole situation here as of late. All right, 7:34 Mountain, 8:34 Central Time. Fun conversation there, talking lots of different things, but starting with, of course, stats and team records. And once again, the consensus is you got to have a little bit of both to get your number retired. You got to have good stats. You got to win. So it's kind of a rare deal that, he's got great stats, but he didn't win that much. But Shooter's going to get his number retired anyway here at the Colorado Spring Game. All right, let's get to break. We'll come back. We're going to talk Colorado Rockies baseball with our new friend Christian Sayas next. You're listening to the Morning Blitz here on a Thursday.
Get ready for powerful deals at Hurl Chevrolet GMC in Goodland, Kansas. Right now, drive home a 25 GMC Sierra 1500 Turbo Max with 0.9% financing or up to $7,800 in purchase allowance. Step up in luxury in a 2025 Sierra 1500 Denali and get up to $5,250 in purchase allowance. Or take on any job with the 25 Sierra 2500 with 3.9% APR or up to $2,700 in purchase allowance. These offers won't last. Rush into Hurl Chevrolet GMC in Goodland today or shop online at hurlchev.com.
It's time for a check of the markets with the Anderson Trade Group on the Kansas Farm and Ranch Radio Network.
Good morning, this is Kate Thompson with the Anderson Trade Group. Today is Thursday, April 17th. On the overnights last night, May corn higher 3/4 cents at $4.85, July up 3/4 at $4.92 1/2, September up 1/4 at $4.59 1/4, December up 1/4 at $4.67. May soybeans up 4 1/4 on the overnights at $10.43, July up 3 1/4 at $10.53 1/2, August up 2 3/4 at $10.49 1/2, September beans up 2 1/4 at $10.33. Chicago beat the May contract higher 4 cents, $5.51 3/4, July up 4 cents at $5.65, September up 4 1/4 at $5.79 1/4, December up 3 3/4 at $5.99 3/4. Kansas City wheat the May contract higher 7 1/2 at $5.65 1/2, July up 6 1/2 at $5.78 3/4, September up 6 cents at $5.93 1/2, December up 5 3/4 at $6.17. On the stock market this morning, the Dow down $551 at 39,301. The S&P up $28 at 5,334. The Nasdaq up 151 at 18,536. Crude oil up $1.06 a barrel at 63.53, and gold down $7 an ounce at 3,339. If you have any questions about marketing grain, I would like to talk. 4484, or in our Kansas City office, myself, Tom Sluter.
All the fancy electronic buttons that look like the inside of a jet airliner, but simple controls that are built to last. They've sure sold a lot of these sets all around the area. Your clothes will be cleaner with a speed cleaner. See the kings of Speed Queen at Great Western Tire of Oakley, Colby, and Scott City.
Start your day with a blitz of sports news, analysis, and interviews.
Sounds like a pretty damn good deal to me.
This is the Morning Blitz with Ross Volkmer.
Another reminder, folks, we are less than 24 hours away now officially from the beginning of our 2025 NWKS radio auction, getting going tomorrow at 8:20 Central, 7:20 Mountain Time, approximately in that area. Once again, NWKSradio.net, the place to go to find the sale bill. You can also text the word auction to our text lines at 460-0790 or 462-2222. You can also text those numbers, 899-2222, excuse me. You can text the numbers there and it'll reply with a link. If you text the word auction, it'll reply with a link. You can click it and get the download for the sale bill there. So once again, tomorrow, very busy day with the 2025 NWKS radio auction. All right, I'm excited to welcome in a first-time guest again here to the Morning Blitz. Welcome in Christian Saez. He covers the Colorado Rockies for DNVR Sports. He's got to have one of the toughest jobs in all of Major League Baseball. Christian, good morning. How are we doing today?
Morning, Ross. Yeah, it's, I always say it's a privilege to get to cover baseball for a living, but the Rockies are making it a little more challenging for me this year. I'll say that.
How much more challenging is it that you got to stay up and watch some of these late games, like they just were out on LA for 3 consecutive ones? That's got to be even really harder.
It is. And I'm someone who likes to get up early, so I'm staying up late, and they're not even making it worth it. Although last night the Rockies at least put up a fight, so I give them credit. Our bar is pretty low right now. At this point, we're just trying to make the games interesting for the fans, and the Rockies did that last night. But look, man, it's been a pretty tough start to this season. Actually, the toughest start that we've ever seen in Rockies history. A 3-15 start. It's not been good. So I'd like to say things will turn around and look better at some point later this season, but there's a lot of different things that need to change for the Rockies.
At the same time, though, this was somewhat expected. You knew it was going to be a tough year for the Rockies, probably a 100-loss season. But is it worse than maybe what you thought it could possibly even be, even though it might be a bad year?
Yeah, I made this point the other day, and I was saying, okay, yes, we were expecting this to be a rebuilding season, right? You weren't expecting to go to the playoffs by any means. You weren't expecting to have a ton of success. This was a year where you wanted to focus on calling up a lot of your prospects, getting them some big league experience. And to be honest, I kind of understand those guys struggling, right? There's 6 rookies on the Rockies roster, and it makes sense that those guys are going to have some growing pains. What's been more of a surprise to me is the veterans on the team, or quote unquote veterans, the guys that you expected to be playing at a higher level, your Ezekiel Tovar's, even Michael Toley, I'll throw into the mix there, although this is technically his first full season. He looked like your kind of perennial starter at first base, like someone who was going to hit 30 home runs this year. And, he might turn things around and get back to that point, but he has the highest strikeout rate in all of baseball. And so I think it's more of those specific pieces where you see that and you're like, that's what's more head scratching to me, because you kind of expected those guys to be the ones that were consistent and you could build around. And, the youth movement, as we like to call it, that was what you expected to be the variable in all of this. So I don't disagree with you. We are starting, I guess, in a way that we kind of expected to be, but it's just the way in which they're losing games that's shocking right now.
Christian Saez is our guest. He covers the Colorado Rockies for DNVR Sports. He joins us on the Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware hotline here on this Thursday morning. Of course, the Rockies coming off 6 consecutive losses on a West Coast swing, swept by the Padres and the Dodgers, including an 8-7 loss last night late there in LA. What has been worse, in your opinion? Has it been the lack of offensive production, or has it been really the lack of quality starts from starting pitching?
It's got to be the offense. Pitching has always been something that we've struggled with for the Rockies. If you've followed Rockies baseball or even just followed baseball for a long time, you know that the Rockies pitching at Coors Field is very, very challenging, and pitching has just never been our strong suit. But you always expected to have a team and a lineup that could, one, hit home runs and kind of just keep you in games via the long ball. And so when you come into the season and you have one of the lowest home run rates in all of baseball, you have the highest K rate in all of baseball, lowest batting average in baseball, like the offensive stats really stand out because the pitching you kind of expected, but the hitting was kind of what you expected to make it a little bit more interesting. So I would say the offense is definitely much more shocking, and it's historically bad to start this season.
Can you put your finger on why you think the offense has been as bad as it's been?
To be honest, Ross, I don't think I can. I'd love to sit there and kind of evaluate all of the mechanics and the techniques and all of that kind of stuff. But to be completely honest with you, they're going up there and they don't look like they have a game plan, right? You got guys at second and third, one out, and you have back-to-back strikeouts. And if you know even anything about baseball, you know that is the cardinal sin when it comes to baseball, right? So it's just simple stuff like that. And again, these are some hitters, at least half of them are some hitters that you would expect to not be making those mistakes. So it's a head scratcher for all of us, man. We're sitting here and thinking to ourselves, man, at some point, someone's going to figure it out. And it just has not showed up yet, aside from a couple veterans, really.
Who has had the most disappointing season to this point in time individually, in your thoughts, based upon what you knew going in?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Michael Tolea, and I mentioned him just a few moments ago, he was a guy that I had talked to this offseason, I had talked to leading into this upcoming season, and I really thought he was going to take a stride forward this year. And again, it's early, so there's still plenty of time for him to bounce back and become the player that I expected him to be. But last year, if you look at his stats, he didn't play all season long, so he wasn't qualified to get a Gold Glove, to go to the All-Star game, all that kind of stuff. But his stats were very, very good in comparison with some other All-Star first basemen around baseball by the end of last season. And again, I look at him as a 6'5" power hitting first baseman, someone that I expected to hit 30+ home runs this year if he could find a swing. And he just hit his first home run yesterday. Granted, it was a grand slam. It was a nice little dinger for him against the Dodgers. But aside from that one blip yesterday, it's been nothing but strikeouts pretty much for Michael Tolea. So I'm hoping that he can turn things around. I still have a lot of faith in Michael Tolea, but that has definitely been a big disappointment.
How about pitching-wise? Who maybe did you think was going to have a better pitching performance, or at least start off this year? Herman Marquez really is off to a rocky start. Senzatella looked okay in spring training, but what about pitching? Where do you think? Why do you think who's had probably a most disappointing start in that department?
Well, pitching is funny because when we started this year, over the first, I think it was 3 series, the Rockies had the best ERA, or the second best ERA in all of baseball for starting pitchers. Our starting pitchers, we went, I think, 2 times through the rotation, and we had given up 2 runs or something like that. And you're sitting there thinking, this was not the part of our game that I expected to be very good this year. But I think just the fact that you had two guys coming back from injury, Herman and Senzatella, both pretty much missing an entire year or more with various injuries last season, that was kind of where we attributed the success to was, hey, we've got a full rotation finally. But things have kind of come back down to earth a little bit. And I think if you're asking who's the biggest surprise disappointment so far, it would probably be Herman at this point, just because, again, you saw him in spring training. He looked really good. He's coming back from Tommy John surgery. He's, has the ability to throw 95 to 98 miles an hour on his fastball, and you feel pretty good about that, especially with where his career is. And also, he was your ace, right? This was when the Rockies were going to the playoffs in 2017, 2018. Herman Marquez was the guy that was getting them there. And so it's, again, a small sample size, but for him to be off to the relatively slow start, aside from his first good start this year, is disappointing.
We're talking Colorado Rockies baseball with the man who covers them for DNVR Sports. That's Christian Saez on the Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware hotline. What of the, you mentioned it right off the bat. This could be a year you bring up a lot of young guys, get the kind of, as I always joke with, let young guys come in, get their brains beat in a little bit, learn the major league level, and hopefully they perform a little bit better in the coming years. Who've been some young guys that have stood out, even though the record has been good? You think some young guys have really showed some promise?
Yeah, well, we've had 3 big league debuts, and we're still in the month of April. So, as I said, we like to call it the youth movement, and the youth movement is alive and well here in Colorado. 6 rookies on the team. But there's been a lot of growing pains. Zach Veen, was called up. Braxton Fulford was called up. He got his MLB debut yesterday, went 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts. But our biggest prospect, the top prospect that we have called up so far, was our pitcher, Chase Dollander, starting pitcher, expected to be, kind of the ace in the future of our Rockies franchise. And despite giving up a couple home runs in both of his starts, he's looked really good. I would almost say as advertised, given he's only had 2 starts in the big leagues. And to put this into perspective, he started against the Padres just a few days ago. Again, one of the best offensive lineups in all of baseball. And he went, I think it was 5 2/3 innings pitched, gave up 2 runs, and both of those runs were solo home runs. One of them to Fernando Tatis, which only hits home runs. And the rest of it was pretty much locked down. I think he only gave up 1 hit and had 7 strikeouts. You look at that and you say, okay, the home runs, you learn over time to figure out how to pitch around big league pitching or big league hitting, and you get that figured out. But everything else looks good. He's averaging, 6+ strikeouts per game, which we know he can do. He throws 99 miles an hour as a starter. He looks like he's going to be as advertised. And I was talking to some friends, about this after last night's game. Like, we're really at this point just hoping that the Rockies can get a win on a Chase Dollander start, each week, because that's really the biggest thing we have to look forward to every week.
Yeah, that's a tough thing to have to swallow. Unfortunately, we're visiting once again with Christian Saez of covering the Colorado Rockies here on the Morning Blitz. Also, one thing that's going to be tough, I think, about this season from the Rockies' perspective, Christian, is that they're playing in a division that is just absolutely deeper than any division it feels like in baseball in the NL West. And that's got to make it extra hard to watch some of these games and to follow the team.
Yeah, I saw someone post this on social media earlier today. They said, the NL West has 4 teams that could all be in the playoffs and 1 team that could end up getting the number 1 overall pick. Now, I understand the sentiment, right? I mean, the Rockies are on pace to be the worst team in all of baseball. But the issue with that is that the Rockies technically they're not able to get the top overall pick due to the anti-tanking rules because we've been qualified for the top pick. I believe it's the last 3 years, and you can't be qualified an extra year after that. So even if the Rockies are the worst team in baseball this year, we technically are not able to get anything higher than a top 10 pick or 10 or lower pick, I should say. So that's a little bit sad to see. I mean, like, you always have this idea of, hey, if we're going to be bad, at least we can get a good pick out of it. That is not the case this year. But the NL West is a juggernaut right now. The Dodgers, the Giants, the Diamondbacks, of course, the Padres look incredible. And if you actually look at it from a statistic standpoint, the Rockies on paper have the toughest schedule in all of baseball. Out of all 30 teams, the Rockies have the toughest schedule in all of baseball. So it's not like we have anything going for us before the season even started. It just hasn't really worked out the way that we were hoping it would, at least in an improvement standpoint.
Do you feel like there has to be some disappointment, or maybe it just hasn't come to fruition? But you talked about, getting those 3 consecutive, first picks, But with that being said, how come we haven't seen a lot of youth movement come up and make a lot of impact? And you'll see it with like the Royals and Bobby Witt Jr., or other places where they bring up great young pieces and they explode right off, like Corbin Carroll with Arizona. How come the Rockies can't seem to find that person?
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up, because I think if you were asking our general manager, Bill Schmidt, or even one of our coaches, Bud Black, they would probably say, oh, well, we have, right? Brenton Doyle. I mean, he only debuted 2 years ago, and look at him. He's probably going to be an all-star this year. Ezekiel Tovar, Gold Glove, youngest Gold Glove in NL history for a shortstop, right? Like, these are young guys that are starting to make their mark. But aside from those 2 guys, if you actually look at it from a breakdown, the Rockies are on the bottom end of Major League Baseball when it comes to draft and development. And this is a team that prides themselves on being able to draft and develop. Brendan Rodgers is a perfect example. He was our top pick, handful of years ago, and the Rockies just pretty much, released him this year. He's with the Astros at this point. And you look at that and you say, okay, well, this was the guy who was supposed to be a game changer. And that was kind of around when the Rockies were going into their rebuild, and you expected Brendan Rodgers to come up and make a big difference on the Rockies, and he just didn't. So it's the question that we're all asking is like, you're a team that prides yourself on being the draft and develop team, and yet besides a couple guys that you've hit on, it's not really worked out that way. So I do think there's a lot of pressure right now on not only the coaching staff for the Rockies, but also the general manager and to be honest, even the ownership. Although the ownership, has control right now, I think the fans are putting a lot of pressure on this team to start making adjustments, because things need to start changing here pretty soon in Colorado, or we're going down a slippery slope.
No doubt about that. He covers the Colorado Rockies for DNVR Sports. That's Christian Saez. Christian, thank you so much so much for joining the show. Hope to have you on throughout the summer talking some Rockies baseball, no matter how hard it is. It can be therapeutic for us all.
It is, right? Got a little vet session, as I always say. I appreciate the time, Ross. Have a good rest of your day, man. Appreciate the time.
Thank you, sir. Once again, great stuff there from Christian Saez, covering the Colorado Rockies for DNVR Sports. Great guy, great guest, great information there. Missing of that conversation, go back and check out the podcast on our podcast page. All right, let's get to a break. When we come back, we are going to dive into a couple of other things and news and notes on the local sports side. Next, you're listening to a Thursday edition of the Morning Blitz.
Convenience just got an upgrade. Farmers State Bank of Oakley is excited to announce the opening of our brand new ATM along Highway 40, right next to Sonic Drive-In. Whether you're grabbing a snack or on the go, you can quickly access your cash without the detour. It's banking made easy, right where you need it. Farmers State Bank of Oakley, member FDIC.
That adorable crew at High Plains Doors can sure up your doors with a new seal. From top to bottom, they'll keep the harsh elements out. Wind out, dirt out, moisture out, rodents out. Just outstanding maintenance work performed by their certified technicians. They'll do all your service and maintenance work. Call High Plains Door Systems of Colby to schedule your service at 785-462-6352. That's 462-6352 or highplainsdoors.com.
At FNB Bank, we understand the backbone of our community is our local farmers and ranchers. Whether you're growing crops, raising livestock, or investing in new equipment, we're here to help you succeed. Our agricultural loans are tailored to meet the unique needs of your farm, with flexible terms from people who understand what it takes to make it in agriculture. When you partner with FNB Bank, you're working with neighbors who know the land and are invested in your success. FNB Bank, rooted in our community, growing with you. Member FDIC.
Looking for insurance that actually puts you first? At the insurance agency in downtown Goodland, we're independent, which means we work for you. Whether it's auto, home, crop, or business, we shop top carriers to get you the best coverage at the best price. No pushy sales, just honest advice from people who live right here in your community. Give us a call today at 785-899-5011 or stop by 1020 Main in Goodland, and let's get you covered. The insurance agency. Insurance the way it should be.
It's the Morning Blitz with Ross Volkmer.
Did you eat a lot of paint chips when you were a kid? Why?
Your daily dose of sports.
All right, final segment here on the Morning Blitz. Still got about 4 minutes left to go in the show. You know, Rockies fans can't feel too bad, or at least be bothered too much at work by their Royal friends and fans, because the Royals didn't have a good series. Either they were swept up in the Bronx by the Yankees. They lose yesterday 4-3. Boy, MJ Melendez had a great shot down the line, and Cody Bellinger with a phenomenal play out in right field with a catch to end the game. That probably would have sent the game to extras. Maybe, who knows? Maybe able to find a way to win that game in regulation, or win that game and come back and beat the Yankees. But Royals are swept. They are 8-11, and boy, they have really struggled away from home. I mean, the Rockies are bad away from home, 1-11. Royals are 2-7 away from the K. So not a good start for the Royals away from home this season. 8-11. And not very, very good. Chris Bubich really struggled, kind of got roughed up for the first time. He had pitched really well his first couple of games, even a no decision, 5 1/3, 3 runs on 7 hits, 4 walks. Always tough with that, and 6 strikeouts. And Bobby Witt Jr. still continues to hit. He's hitting over 300. Went 1 for 4 with a run scored there for Bobby Witt Jr. Yeah, Royals lose. By the way, Kansas City begins a 4-game weekend series this afternoon in Detroit against the Tigers. First pitch time of 5:40 Central Time on AM 790 KXXX, where you can catch the Royals and the Tigers. Rockies, by the way, after their loss on the Colorado road trip going 0-6, they are back home on Friday. So a day off today, back home on Friday to face the Washington Nationals, a young and up-and-coming Washington Nationals team there for the Rockies to square off with this coming weekend, and what'll probably be a very cold weekend in Denver. Really cold. Will not be much fun. Heck, there's the chances for snow. So there may be some games that get moved, to be honest with you, out there in the Rockies. Local sports real quick before we get into or wrap up the show here. Yesterday, Colby Community College softball swept down at Hutch, lost 8-0 in game 1. They had just 1 hit. Game number 2, a little bit more competitive, losing 9-2. Lady Trojans have lost 4 in a row. They are 27-22 overall, 8-18 in conference play. They are scheduled to host Seward County on Friday. Forney Tech Northwest lost both their home games yesterday to Dodge City. They lose 8-0 and 10-2. Lady Tigers 0-38 on the season. Today, Colby Community College baseball on the road down at Hutch for a doubleheader. See if the Trojans can find a way to get this ship righted after a great stretch in March. April has been very, very tough on the Trojan baseball team. See if they can get things right. Also today, Goodland baseball on the road at Decatur Community. A chance for the Cowboys to pick up a couple of wins that have eluded them. Decatur Community really struggling this year in their first year back of playing high school baseball. It might be the first time ever, but I say it's been the first time since I've been in Northwest Kansas they've had a baseball program, and that's now over 10+ years. So Goodland at Decatur Community. And Colby at home. Colby High School baseball trying to bounce back from a sweep by Scott City on Tuesday. They will host Burlington this afternoon there at Young Memorial Field. And can't forget about track and field today. Hill City has their track invite. Hoxie, Rollins County, Golden Plains, Quinter, Oakley, Decatur Community all expected to attend the Hill City track invite today. And finally, one more stopping piece here on basketball. KU basketball landed another transfer out of the portal yesterday. Melvin Council Jr., 6'4" guard, averaged 15 points, 5 boards, 4 assists last season. Guy that's tough, athletic, downhill scorer, can get to the basket. Becomes the 3rd portal addition for KU at this point. He joins the likes of Trey White from Illinois and Loyola Chicago's Jaden Dawson. So KU and Bill Self adding more pieces from the portal yesterday in what is Melvin Council Jr. He was at St. Bonaventure last season.
High drive, deep left, grand slam, and back lifts his ball high and deep to right. How about a walk-off three? Thomas to the 10. Denver's going on to New England. They win it on the first play of overtime. Mahomes swings it. It's there. Hardman, jackpot, Kansas City.
Into the walk-off here. So the news is starting to shake down that Nico Amaliva from Tennessee, the former quarterback that wanted more money, and Tennessee said, thanks, but no thanks. You can leave. We don't want you here. No one is bigger than the team. Love it, love it, love it. Nico is apparently looking at winding up at UCLA. I love the comments from his people, his family and stuff saying, well, Nico's leaving Tennessee not because of the money. He's leaving because he's going to UCLA because of, or he's leaving Tennessee because he didn't agree with the offense that they were running. Are you kidding me? They are making stuff up. No, the reason you're leaving is because you fought the man and the man won. That's why you left. Not because your kid did not have good offensive success. No, he was just fine there at Tennessee. They built the offense around him. They wanted to be there for 4 years. He wanted more money, though. And what was an interesting NIL deal, it turns out, he was guaranteed this $8 million, but he had to do certain things, appear for these certain appearances and sign autographs, and he didn't do that stuff. Well, it's hard to get paid when you don't do what's in your contract that you're supposed to do. So Nico off to UCLA. I doubt he'll make any type of extra money like he was hoping to make. I'd be surprised. Another reminder, folks, no show tomorrow because of NWKS Radio's radio auction, or Monday because I'll be out. Be back on Tuesday, though, with the next edition of the Morning Blitz. And, of course, NWKSradio.net. Go there now or text the word auction to our text line. Get the sale bill. It's been updated. It'll continue to be updated with last-minute items, and get ready to bid on Friday, starting at around 8:20 Central, 7:20 Mountain Time. So the NWKS Radio Auction, a very busy, full day. No show tomorrow. We'll be there all day and hope you get some great deals and make some calls in to the radio auction. Thanks to Christian Saez, and thanks to you for listening. We are out of here. We'll talk to you next week on Tuesday. Have a good one and a happy Easter.
Rocket 102.5 is KKCI Goodland.